Good morning and welcome to Good Fruit Garden. I am Miriam. For those of you who are new to my channel, welcome. And for those of you who have been joining me on this journey, welcome back and thanks for tuning in again. So it is about 6:30 in the morning here in Phoenix. I am having to get up earlier and earlier because our weather is getting warmer and warmer and heating up really fast. We went from like super cold to hot. So it has been in the high 90s all week. Sunday it's supposed to be 99 degrees. So you guys can see why in Phoenix we really do have to plan really far in advance for our spring gardens and anyone else who is also in zone 9B. A lot of the times your summer weather is my spring weather. So this is why I typically get started in January for the spring. So I wanted to give you guys a quick tour to show you how things have been coming along in the garden that I seeded and transplanted several weeks ago. But before I do that, I want to show you this footage of what happened about 5 days ago. I had a small catastrophe in my garden, and it was funny and cute at the same time, but just like, again? So check this out. So here was my big problem this past week. A bird came in my garden and completely decapitated the tops of my cucumber plants off and didn't even eat the leaves, just left them on the ground. This one they pulled entirely out of the ground and left it right here. So I'm really not sure why they have done this. This was the first time that I've had seedlings destroyed, and out of the 5 that I had back here, 4 have been destroyed. So this is the last one that I have remaining. I don't have that many more seeds to reseed, but I'm going to go ahead and reseed the rest of the seeds that I have left today and hope for the best. They even did the same thing with one of my okra seedlings that I had. They left the base and took off the head. I can't figure this out. So next time I am just going to better protect my seeds when I plant them. So I love the birds. I love coming out to my garden. I love hearing their little chirps and the little songs that they play every morning. This is the first time I've had a problem with birds completely ripping up little seedlings. I've had birds put their beaks through my tomatoes and bell peppers and things like that before. It doesn't happen very often, and so I don't really make that big a deal about it and try to cage off my things because they're God's creatures too and they have to eat. And usually I have enough where it's not as big a deal, but with my seedlings, with them just getting started and they haven't even produced any fruit yet, I was like, man, now I got to seed again. So the blessing behind it is I had just enough seeds to reseed and get another row growing. And the bad thing is it's already so late in the year to have to reseed cucumbers now for the 4th time, you guys. This was the 4th round that went in because the ones that I started inside my house in January got destroyed by a windstorm out here as soon as I transplanted them outside. I seeded and that round didn't come up and sprout. I seeded again, the birds ate it. So these that are here now are my 4th rounds, and I am out of cucumber seeds and I need to go get some more just in case. So I'm hoping that these babies can grow up pretty quickly so that I can get at least a decent harvest this spring. Realistically, they should have been already a foot tall and really bushing out at this point, but I may just go to the nursery and pick up a cucumber plant that's already a little bit more established so that I can at least guarantee that I will have some sort of cucumber production this spring. So I'll keep you guys posted if I do decide to end up doing that. But let me show you the rest of the garden and how things are coming along. I am pleased with how everything else is coming along. So let me show you that. So here are my plants that survived the wind, the birds, and what's left. This bell pepper plant I actually seeded the day the wind took out my other one, which was 4 weeks ago, and it literally just sprouted a couple of days ago. I was actually pretty shocked to see it come up. So that was really exciting and really good news. So the other bell pepper plants that I have here, this one did survive the storm. It did get a little bit of damage to the leaves, but other than that, it's still doing great. And then my big one here is doing much better in this spot. This little bell pepper that's growing on it has grown even more in the past week. And then I just cut off the other bell pepper plant, or excuse me, I just cut off the other bell pepper that I had on this plant. So behind the bell pepper, I have a row of okra, and this is a little seedling that I planted a couple of weeks ago. This one I did plant in January that survived the storm, and some of the leaves did come off of it, but it's still hanging in there. And this is my other little baby okra plant that I'm hoping makes it. These are the cherry tomatoes that I seeded inside of my house in January and planted them a month ago, and they're doing great. They have literally doubled in size since I have planted them back here, and they also survived the storm. So they're doing really good, and these produce really sweet tomatoes. So I'm hoping for a really good production with these this spring. So these are my two zucchini plants that also did survive the storm. They are growing and looking great. I have actually never successfully grown zucchini. I did get my plants to the flower stage last fall, but then they died before they actually produced any fruit. So I'm hoping for a good harvest with them this spring. So here's the spinach. So 4 weeks ago, I direct sowed seeds into the ground that never sprouted because birds did come by and eat the seeds before they even became seedlings. So I did reseed them, and they did come up this time. In this empty space here, I actually planted salad bowl lettuce that the birds must have gotten to as well. So I reseeded a couple of days ago, and you can see this tiny little green baby here trying to come up. So I'm hoping that I do have some good production with my salad this spring. So here are the new cucumber seedlings that I just seeded about 5 days ago. I did put this cage around it to protect the seeds this time. I didn't have anything to place over the top of it so far as like a mesh net, but I have been putting a cloth over the top of it to try to protect those. But I wanted to show you guys this because my daughter decided to make me a scarecrow for my garden because she was here when I found my cucumber babies slaughtered by the birds. And so she says, "Mom, you need a scarecrow." And she just runs back into the house. She comes back out with this and made me a little scarecrow puppet. And her sweet little heart, her scarecrow is smiling. And she says to me when she puts it in the ground, "I made it as scary as I could," but her scarecrow is just smiling. And I thought that was so cute because she just doesn't have a mean bone in her body. And she made a scary scarecrow that has a smile on his face. So that's just so my daughter. But it must be working because all of these little cucumber seedlings are still here. They're still surviving. So I'm really excited. And I'm really hoping and praying for a really good cucumber harvest. So these three little babies are actually emerald oak lettuce that I have planted behind my cucumbers and underneath this tomato plant so that it'll have shade from the Arizona sun. And this beefsteak tomato plant I planted 4 weeks ago. It was a transplant that I purchased from Fry's, but when I transplanted it in my garden, this plant was the size of this one. So you can see how much it has grown in the 4 weeks it's been in the ground. Not only that, the one thing that I noticed about this is the flowers are completely different on them. The center part is staying straight out while the petals kind of leaf back, which is kind of different than the other Rio Grande tomato plants that I have. And the flowers are a lot larger than my other tomato plants. So I'm hoping that might mean maybe I will have a larger tomato. My tomatoes are still only about 2 ounces, so I'm hoping for larger tomatoes this season. So these are my carrots. They still are not ready. These things have been in the ground about 5 months. I did pull one out last week to check on it because I saw that the base of it was getting pretty wide, but it was still rather short. It was only about 4 inches long. So I'm pushing this dirt back so you guys can see about the width of this one. So you can see it's only about a half of an inch in diameter. So I'm just going to leave these babies in here a little bit longer and see if they'll get bigger. So these little babies are my collard greens, and this is the very first time that I have attempted to grow collard greens. I hope that I have really good success with them the way that I have with my kale. And they're actually seeded right next to my kale here, so I'm getting ready to pull these out over the next couple of weeks, and I'm going to also reseed more collard greens since they're more heat tolerant for the summer. And my Big Daddy tomato plant, I just love these tomatoes. You guys, they are so super sweet. I pruned these plants back about 4 weeks ago and they're already starting to get a little bit out of control again. So I do have some work to do today in the garden with tying some of these things that have fallen back up, as well as nipping off these bottoms that are hanging and growing. One of the nice things about these tomato plants is their production. I am pulling about 10 to 15 ripe tomatoes off every single week. So this these plants have just been so rewarding and awesome for my family. One thing I did notice though, since our weather is getting warmer, are that the sizes of the tomatoes are getting smaller. I have a few in here throughout that are still good sizes when they are green, but like this one is smaller, that's already ripened, and they're just ripening a lot faster since our weather has become so warm. So I know that I'm probably going to be contending with smaller sized tomatoes than I was when the weather was cooler, but at least it's yielding me a lot of them, so I can still have enough to use in salads and omelets and different things that I use tomatoes for. I did not even see these hiding back here. There's a cluster of about 4 of these that I actually have to reach in and get those out of here. My peas are doing really well so far as production is concerned. I did overwater them though. I forgot and left the hose on one day, and so the left side, all of the leaves yellowed out. So I did scale back the watering for about a week, so I'm hoping that it'll self-correct. But I am actually producing enough peas for my family of 4 to eat 2 dinners a week from. So I could not be more pleased with these. They are so super sweet. I actually come out here, me and my kids, quite a bit, just pick them off and eat them plain. And either that or put them in a stir fry. So they're really, really good. Last fall, I had seeded this Brussels sprout plant, and I noticed this spring it decided to just flourish. So I'm really excited to see what it's going to do, if it will grow and mature very nicely and actually produce some sprouts for me. And then I also have 3 green bean plants that I planted here along this same row that will eventually feed up into this trellis. My mint has decided to just take off completely in the last month or so. It has gotten a lot taller. It used to be just barely above this bed here, but it's got a lot of height on it now, and it actually ended up spreading all the way to the end of this bed here. It was filled, so I removed a lot of the extra mint that was spreading. You can see where I actually forgot one right here, but I moved it all out and transplanted them into smaller pots so that I can give them away like you see here. And I seeded some more green onion in this area, so I'll have more onion. So right behind the green onion, I have a row of cilantro going. I seeded these 3.5 weeks ago, and they're just beginning to get the first little cilantro heads on them. My basil is trying to hang in there. It is struggling a little bit to take off, I'm noticing. So I'm hoping that it just continues to do well in this spot like it did last time. And I did seed additional seeds of basil right in this area. So thank you guys for hanging out with me today. I've had fun making this video and showing you the ups and downs of my gardening escapades. Gardening can definitely be an up and down roller coaster. You never know how things are going to turn out. Sometimes weather patterns can just get funky and uncharacteristic for your region. You're dealing with nature and heat and cold and all of these different variables that you have to take into consideration. And so I've been gardening for 2 years now, but I still consider myself somewhat of a beginner. I'm still learning so much, and I feel like just in this past year I've had actual harvests where I am harvesting every week from my garden. I definitely have had a lot of success in the last year, but there's still so much that I am learning, and there's still so much that I am learning about new things that I've never grown before that present new challenges. So I'm really looking at this as a long-term learning experience, because every single season something funky happens that was completely unexpected for me, and I just try to catalog that and put it in my memory bank so I'll remember for the following seasons of tips and different things to do, so that I can hopefully not repeat those same mistakes or avoid certain things that were out of my control. Like, for example, next year I'm going to make sure that I have tons of plastic jars to cover my babies and make sure that my seeds can actually survive. There's just always so much to learn. And so I hope that offers you guys some encouragement too, because sometimes gardening can be frustrating when you're putting so much love and care and attention into your garden, and if it's not yielding you enough fruit or anything at all, I would say to just still be patient with yourself, still keep trying. Speaking of little birdies, I have one walking towards me right now. I've had the exact same struggles in my garden. My first year of gardening, I might have harvested 2 tomatoes that were about that big. And my herbs did okay, and everything else just wouldn't grow, or the fruit was so tiny it wasn't even edible really for me and my family. So don't give up and hang in there. If this is something that you've been wanting to do and you're struggling with it, reach out to people, ask questions, learn as much as you can. Go to your local libraries, are a really good source of information for gardening tips for your specific area. And they also, a lot of libraries, public libraries, have seeds that they give out for free with a catalog of when to plant them. So it's kind of like a cheat sheet where you don't have to figure it out on your own. People who have already been there, done that, can offer that resource to you. And not only that, they're typically seeds from your area that will germinate best in your climate. So utilize the resources that you have around you to help you through this process. And for those of you who are successful gardeners and these aren't issues that you're having anymore, offer up some advice to us beginners so that we can produce fruit in the same manner as you. So thank you guys for hanging out with me today. It has been a pleasure. And until I see you again, stay safe, God bless you, and I hope to see you soon. Bye.